Now could I answer?
Hi Vivad, let Raina just complete and then I would love to hear it from you. Yes, Raina, please.
We learned about the GDP of a country and that if the GDP of a country is high, then the people of the country will have will be the more population will be working, and if the GDP of a country is down, then majority of the population will be worried and struggling. And also, we learned about export and import. That export is when goods are going out and the money is coming in, and import is when the goods are coming in and the money is going out.
Great, fantastic, lovely. So, yes, you have a very good understanding. And when we talk about GDP, there's a lot more. But at your age, for now, I'm so glad you understand this much to begin with. Of course, it's endless knowledge right there. Okay, Vivan, you want to add to this, beta? Vivan, are you
No,
there?
ma'am.
Okay, if you could turn on the camera, that'll be great. And let's get started with our session today. So today's session is going to be far more intense. And as always, I did get carried away when I started putting things together, the PPT. I realized I was trying to do a lot of concepts which were a little hard, maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. However, there may be towards the end. Ruben, if you want to stay back, I can help you with that later. Okay, so in case it gets a little intense, please let me know. I will slow down. Okay, and Ruben, I want you to stay for 2 minutes after the class, and I want to do that with you if
All right.
I'm not doing it with everyone else. Okay,
All right.
all right, let's get started. Give me a minute. I got to share the PPT. Hmm. Okay, I'm all set. I hope you all are set too. So today's entire session is going to be focused taking up the case study of US China. Now, for all of you who have been hearing news remotely, you would have heard that it's almost like one ping pong game going on. One tariff, other tariff, more tariff, and now they both have imposed crazy tariffs on each other, right? But before we move on, I definitely have something that I want you all to do. Are we ready? Are we ready for that? What are we going to be doing? So this is broadly what we're going to be doing between the two countries, what is happening, and why are these tariffs such a not a positive thing that is happening, and it leads to things like inflation and global recession. So we're going to be deep diving into that. But before that, what do we do? We have to do something. Everyone has to go and do something. What are we supposed to do? We have to keep going until we get to something that I would always want you to have, especially when we are doing a hardcore economics topic, which is nothing but just good common sense. So I hope everybody is now just going to use your common sense. I do not need any knowledge other than the last session's class. So feel free to ask questions, as many questions as you can, because let's be very, very well read and well acquainted with many terms that many adults also don't know. And remember, we have to take back some information for our dinner table to, to actually surprise our parents. So quickly get your common sense pill, and together we get started. But before we get started, this is what we're going to be doing. Everybody in teams has to do this crossword puzzle based on last time. So please take a screenshot and we are going to be playing this game. So Rohan and Vivan, this is a regular feature in our class. It's a lot of fun. It's not an individual activity. Take a screenshot, please, someone, I'll post the link to the puzzle also right now in the group also and in the chat too. And it's a lot of fun because in a team, we tend to perform so much more efficiently and it's a lot more fun. All right, so have you taken a screenshot? Yeah. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And I need to enable screen recording, not screen recording. What do you call it? Sharing? Everybody can share, right?
I'm screen sharing.
Screen share, right. Okay. So here we go, making them two. Saisha, would you like to participate in this?
Yes, Auntie, I'll take part.
Good. So we have, all right. So by default, we have two teams. I'm going to change with, all right. Okay. So Ruben, we do have a young chap here. All right. I know you're a big bhai. All right. So you will be able to help Rohan. Okay. Okay. And I hope all of us can collaborate and do it. That's what I'm really looking at. Okay. 1 minute.
Excuse me, mom. What do we have to do, ma'am? My internet
Oh,
lag.
yeah. So this is a crossword puzzle that I want all of you to attempt. Vivan, this is a crossword puzzle that you have to attempt. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I don't puzzle.
Just go. You'll get the link. The link was shared on the group. Just go and do it in the other one. Okay?
Ma'am, I can't see anything in the group.
You'll have to go to the group. You'll have to go to the team. You'll have to go to the breakout room. You have a link to the breakout room? Just go to that breakout room, beta.
Actually, ma'am, I don't have that link to the breakout room.
I'll add you. I'll add you to the breakout room.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1 minute. Hi, Ira.
Hello, ma'am.
You got to do this activity. Go to the breakout room, and there, so where you have to do this. Was it fun? Did you all enjoy? Okay,
Yes,
Ruben,
ma'am.
I hope everybody was involved. I didn't
Yes, ma'am.
realize, yeah, so okay.
No,
Yeah.
not everyone,
Okay,
but
next time.
most of
Okay.
them.
All right,
Ma'am,
because we did have
Ma'am, just Vivan didn't answer. He was not even.
because I'll tell you
Oh,
why he
you
didn't
answered.
answer. Okay, Rohan, first one
Ma'am, I
biggest thing.
answered the deficit one, ma'am.
Vivan, wait, 1 minute, bache. Rohan, one biggest rule of this class is, which is for Vivan and everybody who's joining, we are never, ever going to point fingers at anyone. If in a team, your teammate is not participating, the onus lies on you all. Okay, we have to make an effort to make everybody participate, involve everyone. Okay, so we are never ever going to come out and say that we didn't win or we didn't do it because the other one did. Not allowed. Okay, so that's a strict rule. I'm going to be very mad at that person who does that. All right, so have we all completed it? Was it a problem? Was it a
I
problem?
completed it twice because
No one had
no
the
one joined the.
screenshot.
Then I'm extremely disappointing if that happened. However, never mind. What about, is there anybody who didn't know the answers? I want to know that. Is there anybody who didn't know
Ma'am,
the answer?
you showed the QR code or whatever the start before you enter the breakout rooms, and then no one joined the breakout rooms. I completed it twice, so
Okay.
I knew the answers.
All right. Chalo. Okay. Here we go. So those people, what about Samira and everyone else? I hope you all knew this, that GDP is report card of a country. And if exports is more than
Not in order.
imports.
Ma'am, we didn't have the screenshot, so we didn't attempt it.
What do you mean you didn't attempt it? But what about you guys didn't attempt the quiz?
No, ma'am, we didn't have
No one had the screenshot.
Oh my God, what about the QR code and stuff? Why didn't you ask for it? Oh, yes, I did not post the group because oh, all right. You guys have to do this again then. Let me just share it. It
I'll
won't take
post it
very
on the
long.
group. I have it. I'll
Just
post
do
it on the
that.
group.
Just do that, please. Just post it in the group. Yes, you're right. I didn't. And I'm also going to do that here.
I sent it.
And it's in the chat too. Everybody, please take a minute to do that. We have to know whether you know it or not. But hey, in case I'm missing this, please tell me, okay? Because it's the first time this has happened, but I need to know if I missed out doing this. Somebody has to tell me that. Do you all have it now? Samira, do you have it? Yeah? All of you? Do you want to quickly go to the breakout room or you can do it here? Okay, you guys have the access. Let me move on, but we'll just go through this. Okay, GDP is a report card of a country. We did that last time. Now, if exports is more than imports, it's called the trade surplus. If imports is more than the exports, then it's called the trade deficit. And tariff is nothing but a tax that a country basically puts on the imports, right? So with the increase in tariff, the earning for importing, government increases, and if the citizens of a country that eventually have to pay the increase in the tariffs, all right, and the earnings are going to the government, whereas the tariffs are going to the citizens. An increase in the prices will lead to increase in the inflation. I'm feeling so bad that this happened, but apologies for this. Anyways, let's get back to the class. Samira, Rihanna, everyone, you have to promise me that if you're not understanding, go to ask me a question. So why do countries typically impose tariffs? Can we just sum it up, all of us? Why is it? The countries will do that basically to protect its own industries. That's the whole idea. That's the reason why tariffs are going to be imposed. And in order to fix the trade deficit, punish the unfair trade practices, and also many a times, like it seems to be happening right now, it becomes more like a bargaining table. So you impose the tariffs, and the other country will come to you to understand if we can do something, we can work out a deal. Now, this is something that you'll understand a little better after we've ended this session. All right. So, again, one more activity, and it's a simple one, but I want all of you to basically text me individually, identify and text me, first of all, which are the countries with which USA has a trade surplus. So, when you look at this map, what does this map look like? It's basically a map of the world. Now, there's certain which are in blue, there's certain which are in red. There are only two colors here, right? Blue and red. Here it is, all right? Now, all the countries that are in blue indicate a certain figure, which is minus. That means these are the countries where the US is importing, from these countries, the US is importing more and is exporting less, right? While those in the red indicate vice versa. Now, let's start with the countries which we are talking about are in trade surplus. Which color do we need to look at for trade surplus? Any idea? Please unmute, children. Unmute. I don't want you to be muted. If there is a so absolutely great. So tell me everybody, please text me as many countries as you can, a certain which are the countries where we have maximum trade. US has maximum trade surplus with, and otherwise also which are the countries where trade surplus is. Okay. Yeah. And we can actually speak out also. I think let's speak out. Trade surplus, which all countries unmute, and then we can all talk. Everyone. Vivan, Saisha, Rohan, turn on the camera and everybody please. Countries where trade surplus is with US. What does that mean?
US has traded more with them.
Absolutely. So which are those
think.
countries? Can we, US? Yes, US is, when we talk about that, we are talking about the countries where US is exporting more. than it's being imported. Which are the countries we can think of here with
Ma'am,
US?
Canada.
Yes, Canada. No,
Pakistan.
Canada is otherwise. Canada is in blue, so that is the trade deficit.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia. All the ones that are in red.
Hasn't
Brazil,
Yes, Brazil, Australia. So which is the country where maximum trade surplus is there with US? Which is the country with maximum trade surplus that we can make out here?
Australia,
Australia seems to have a decent one, right? And what about the country which has the
UK?
maximum trade deficit? UK has how much? 128,
No, 12 billion.
12 billion.
12
And
billion.
this one is 18 billion. Right. So which
I
is the
think
country?
China.
China. So that is
19 billion positive.
which one? Which-
United Arab Emirates.
And look at you're right. You're right. And look at
That's what I'm saying.
Mexico.
UK has a surplus. China has a deficit.
Yeah, so which one has a maximum surplus actually? Look at Mexico. What is Mexico's? That's minus. So what is it? Which are the main, these are basically the trade partners. And this is a very interesting map because what we're trying to understand is that wherever there is a trade surplus, it's the country is in a very comfortable zone. However, when it changes to a trade deficit, that is where we know that the country will have to spend more, and that is not really good, especially for a country like USA, which is already running into a lot of debt. Okay, we'll not go into the debt part right now. However, who wants to understand that, we can definitely discuss that later. But for now, what is very important is that we are looking at the country which is in the darkest blue. And which is the country in the darkest blue? We have China, we have Mexico. These are the countries where US is definitely wary of. And however, the countries which are in red, they are the best partners for a country like US because of the trade surplus. Are we clear on that front? Trade surplus and trade deficit? Are we clear on that? Yeah? Because we've got to just keep going. All right, then we move on to the next one. What is the next one? Now, when we talk about US has a huge trade deficit with China, what is very, very important to understand is the actual figures here. While in the year 2000, this was the only gap, over the years, the exports have reduced a lot and imports have gone up majorly. Now, also one of the major things, Ruben, you should look into this, which are for sure, which I'm not going to be covering it right now. China joined WTO and the entire situation changed. Okay, so this is a huge thing that had a bearing on this, and then we must definitely be looking at considering that major angle. If we can look into it, just look into it. However, this is the biggest problem, and that is the reason why US decides that we have to change ever since Donald Trump comes to power this year in January. He decides that since US debt is increasing so much and they're living on a time bomb, they've got to
Wait,
do
ma'am, I have a
something.
question.
Yes, Ruben.
Trade deficit means
They-
that they've imported more than they've exported, right?
That's right.
So with China, US has imported more.
Absolutely. You look at this.
Then why would you say negative?
Because they're paying more. See, what is happening is they're paying so much more.
Oh, okay. No, I get it.
Yeah, you
You
get
would
it?
put plus. You would put plus 295 billion or whatever in
See, when you're
China,
talking
no?
about the
Because the
deficit, right?
US owes them that much. If
That's
the US
right.
owes them that much, so wouldn't you put plus for China?
Which one are you talking about here? This one, see, when you're talking about a trade deficit,
No,
trade
on the map,
deficit.
on the map.
1 second.
On the map.
Yeah, the map
Yeah,
is
here.
right here.
Wouldn't you put
Yeah.
plus? Wouldn't you put plus? Because US
No.
owes them that much.
So this is the trade imbalance. Okay, this is technically the trade imbalance that is there, that US owes this much to them. So it's a trade imbalance. And when you say it's a trade imbalance, if it's a negative, that means it's a trade deficit here that is happening. You get it?
Not owes, but like, well, shouldn't it be plus
This
because they're
is
that much above the US in terms of exports?
No, bache.
But imports, in terms of imports.
This is the amount of, this is the differential. That means every year what is happening is that USA is exporting. See, this is the difference. Let's come to this. US is exporting only 144 and importing 439. So what is the difference between
Yeah,
the
I
two?
got that.
439, right? That is the exact figure, and it is going to be negative only, bache, because this is the amount US is always paying, and whenever you're paying, it's a money going out of your pocket, right? So that is going to be a negative one. It's not a good. It's a trade deficit
But
here
wouldn't it
that
be
is
plus?
happening.
Wouldn't it be
No,
plus for
bacha.
China?
No, from China's
Because
perspective,
China is
yes. But here we're looking from US in perspective. From US, when you look at it, it is negative.
all right, all right.
Yeah. From US
Okay, okay.
perspective, it
I
is
got it.
negative. From China, it'll be positive.
Yeah.
Got it? So it's
All right.
that it's the relative. I think you were seeing from China's perspective. That's where the difference was. So technically, that was the problem. And here, when you look at it, the trade deficits where all the countries are listed here. So in Donald Trump comes to power and he says, I don't like this. And you know how interesting and a personality he is. And he says that I believe in making America great again. And when he says it's a loaded statement, making America great again. Again means that US is not doing well and we've got to do something where the country needs to start doing better. And that is when he says because the biggest expense that the US has to incur is in terms of paying for all the difference between import and export. So he says, let me just start doing something about it. And that is where the tariff game comes in. And let's understand that a little more. But before we do that, we've got to understand the main problem. Now, what is the main problem? We just saw that 295 billion is a trade deficit. However, now China is also, there is just one more map that I all want you to see, that China, now look at things from China's perspective. All right. From China's perspective, things are a little different. Here is, you see, China's over the years has only increased the trade surplus. All right. Whereas US is on a decline, it is below. And the major substantial problem is in the manufacturing goods. So, children, now we're looking as an economics person. What we're trying to understand here is that out of the trade deficit that is happening, what is it that is majorly the biggest problem? And when you look at these graphs, these are basically the manufactured goods. Don't go into the details. I'm just giving you a fair enough idea of what these maps indicate, that maximum goods are being imported from China within US. So that Donald Trump comes to power and the story begins. But Donald Trump decides what I'm going to do is I'm going to impose a tariff on people, on the countries. And what that means, when they are sending the goods, my government is going to charge them money. Now tell me, children, in case, let's form a chain out of this before we move on. Samira, let's all take turns to understand. Here, we are going to be imposing tax. One country, US, is deciding to impose tax on goods that are going to be coming from China. Raina, what does that imply? Bache, can you build on that? I'm okay. Ruben is China and I am US. Okay. I am saying I'm going to be importing goods from Ruben's country here, but I'm going to put tax. Now, where is that tax going to go, Raina? That particular tax that is going to be added. Who gets that tax? Anybody?
The government. My country will have to pay that tax, right?
No, Ruben, we are not getting it right. Let me just see if I can.
If you're importing stuff from my country,
No.
and
No. Let me just see if there's
no,
I can
sorry.
have
If I've imposed a tariff on your country and some companies in my country want to import stuff from your country, for example, labor is cheaper in China, so production happens in China, and Apple wants to, buy iPhones produced in China and they want to import those iPhones, then I think Apple will have to pay a tax to the government to get those imports.
Right. Just let me just do this here. Okay, let's do this. This is US, this is China, and now what I want is the goods are going to be here. Okay, we are looking at these are the goods. Okay, Now, once these goods are going to come here, this is a good, this is a carton or containing the goods. All right. Now, this was the same price. Please try and understand this. This is very important. Now, the goods have reached here. Now, what the US says, this is going to be very expensive. So I'm going to charge a tax as soon as this reaches my country. This tax gets applicable here as soon as this good comes here. And this is the tax, which is the tariff. Now, who gets this? And now this person who's going to be here, this is Raina. Okay, Raina is here. Vivan is also here. Now, all these people who are going to take this good will be paying how much? The cost of this good plus the tax, right? That's the only thing that we have to understand. And who gets the tax? Can we answer, Samaira? Yeah, who gets, yeah, anybody can answer, please, Rohan. Everybody can unmute. Who gets a tax here?
The US government.
The US government gets a tax, right? While you're in USA. Are we getting it? This is just the tax. As soon as this tax keeps increasing, what exactly happens? The US government keeps getting more and more money, and who's eventually paying the price for this increase? Who's paying this price? Nobody but all the consumers here are paying the price, and this is what is happening, and that is the biggest problem that we are looking at, why people also were revolting. However, moving on at a more geopolitics level, can you see the screen, children? Where Donald Trump and they're into a boxing match. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, who are the respective presidents of US and China, they realize that let's get into this Trump war. And this is what happens. Donald Trump proposes a tax, which is going to be here. This is the timeline. Donald Trump, as soon as he comes to power, he says, I want to make America again. And so he starts imposing taxes. He imposes 10% on all Chinese imports. Then he further, you don't need to go into the timeline in a very detailed way. But in a nutshell, what happens is he keeps imposing taxes and China keeps retaliating. And when China retaliates, US gets even more upset. And this is exactly what happens when somebody punches United States of America, President Trump is going to punch them harder. That means he's going to increase the tax even further. And he had his own way of calculating the taxes based on simple logics of export deficit and surplus. And based on that, he calculated the tax. So originally he says that this is the tax that is going to be there. 34%, 20%, this is for the respective all the countries. And after a few days, many countries approach United States of America, says, Donald Trump, let's think about something, let's have a deal. So Donald Trump wanted to see it aside. He says, all right, let's do one thing. Let's pause. Let us pause the tax for 6 months. And what am I going to do? In the meantime, China says, I am not going to be scared. What does China do? China further levies more tax. And Donald Trump says you retaliate, and he makes the tax as 125%. So in a nutshell, China is now facing a 245% tariff on all the imports that are going to be coming from China and going to US. And as a result, now that everything is going to be so much more expensive, because remember, more than a substantial amount is in US, the products are made in China. That's what they're using. So this is a big, big problem for the US citizens also. And hence has started something which is known as a trade war, when one country is retaliating against the other by raising the import tax and placing restrictions on the imports. Are we clear so far? Because if we are clear, then we can move on. Else, we need to reassess a few things. Revisit a few things. Tell me, are we understanding all this? Because are we ready for this time? The activities are slightly lesser, but I had to do it like this. But tell me, are you clear? Is it making
I guess
sense?
what Trump is trying to do, but isn't kind of stupid.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember, why is he imposing a tax? He's also imposing a tax because he wants to get them to the bargaining table. And that's exactly what is happening right now. Maybe it is going to be good in certain ways. Yeah?
He wants the companies to start producing within the US, right?
Absolutely, but that can't happen
wants all
overnight, right? So
the
what he's saying is
companies start producing within the US. But
absolutely,
um,
yeah.
And
what he
one thing
doesn't
that
realize is
is
a large amount of the consumers of each product. So, for example,
Hmm.
McDonald's, it's a US based company, but a large amount of the consumers are in Asia and Europe. So, can't McDonald's just like go out of the US or whatever? Or, for example, can't Apple just start producing in China and then selling to Europe, Asia, Australia, and all, and Africa and South America, and then just skip US entirely?
So this is where
Does he
I'm
not
going to
realize
be
that might
we're going to be
happen?
discussing. I'm going to be discussing. No, he knows that. So what Donald Trump says that it's a good idea to take the hit right now to have a long-term goal. Now, if you look at the statistics, in his first term also, he did have this trade war going on, and he did increase the number of jobs in the US. Now, definitely there is a larger problem that is there, which is, we'll just come to that also. But Ruben, there is while you're talking about the case study of Apple, there is something that I want to show you all also. Here, we'll come to that also. So this is exactly what now something I'll just refer you all to some interesting news that happened. So when Donald Trump imposed these reciprocal tariffs, what are the reciprocal tariffs? Reciprocal to the trade imbalance that is already there at his end. He says, I've got to reciprocate in terms of the trade deficit that I have with these countries. And which were those countries? Here, he called it reciprocal because if you visit here, if you come to this particular slide here, these are the countries where there's a huge trade deficit that is there. Now he says in reciprocal to the trade deficits that are there, I'm going to impose a reciprocal tariff, which are these. He calls it the reciprocal tariffs. And these are his calculations, and this is the tariff that is being imposed, which is being paused. However, except for China, all the other countries have been imposed a flat tariff of 10%. Now, when that happens, the trade war has started between US and China, and a lot of countries have approached, more than 75 countries have already reached out to US to discuss new trade deals, and changes are happening on a global scale. And now China is reacting again. And what China ordered was, what you got to do is China stopped. There were a couple of Boeing, these big aeroplanes that they were buying from US. China said, all right, I'm not going to buy that. China has also suspended a lot of export of certain materials, which Donald Trump's industries need that. So that is one of the reasons why that is how China is reacting, and Donald Trump is imposing further taxes on them. Now, who all suffers at the end of it? We all know it is who all? It is the consumers, right? Yes, Saisha.
So one thing that has recently happened is, so over TikTok and Instagram, a lot of people have started buying. US has these big brands, Lululemon, Aero, and all of these brands, and even luxury brands. All of them produce their products in China. So people, instead of buying the products from US, are now getting them from China for like way cheaper, because it takes $10 to manufacture, and then over that they'll pay like $5-6 more and they'll get the product. Whereas in US, those $10 clothes will cost you like $80. So this it's the last 1 week I've seen it all over Instagram. People are buying it from Chinese manufacturers now. So yeah.
You're right. You're right. This was exactly that was happening. However, there been now recent thing on the TikTok is also that a lot of these brands are saying, no, no, we are not buying from them. We are not buying from them. We are not. We are doing ours. So this would also be one of the gimmicks of selling. You know how smart the Asians are, especially. So we will use every opportunity to our benefit. So yes, you're absolutely right. That is what is happening. Is this is how China is getting back to US. So China is retaliating, and US is and Donald Trump is definitely not very happy about this. So now, definitely, I said that who all suffer in this trade when this entire trade war starts. Rohan, who all suffer when the
Citizens.
trade war starts? Yeah, it is the people, right? It is the citizens.
ban the
However,
consumer.
yes, the consumers. You're absolutely right. The consumers. Yes, Vivan. Now I'm going to be taking up a case study because we all are using a lot of things. We know that Apple is being manufactured. Apple is whose product? It's a product made in America, right? But when you look behind it, very often you'll say made in Vietnam, made in China. So definitely there is exactly what Ruben just mentioned. But there is a story, very interesting story that we should all be aware of. Okay, the story is very simple that back in the day, today
I have
Apple
a
is
question, ma'am.
this. Yes, Ruben, please.
Trump is trying to make US back all the money with the tariffs, right? So
The
that
He's trying to reduce the trade deficit and it's in huge debt. The US is right now in 36 trillion debt, and that's what it's trying to figure out. They're living on a time bomb, actually, right now.
so
Yes,
he's trying
please.
to make them back the money.
He is trying very hard that, see, what happens is he's trying to reduce the trade deficit. That means his outflow of money will be lesser, bache, right? And because when you see the balance sheet of
Hmm.
the US government, you'll see the major expense, the main expense in the entire balance sheet is the interest payment it is making, right? And interest payment and the trade deficit. Now, in order to overcome that, he needs to reduce that. And how will he reduce that? So, with the tariffs, he increases the government earnings. Secondly, what happens is within the economy, within the country, what is he trying to do? Set up the factories because those people, he's also going to give his own citizens rebates that okay, you set up the factories here in India, in the US. So once they do that, they increase employment, right? And within them, they become more self-reliant. You get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, here you can also, Ruben, correlate to the year 1991, when Saisha, you guys have been with us when we did the 1991 liberalization. Remember, in India, the tariffs were really, really high. And that was one condition which was imposed by IMF. You got to cut down your tariffs, honey. Only then we're going to give you the loan. So relate tariff to back then. You get it? Are you able to connect the dots? Are you there? Okay. So this
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah. So now let's come to this story. It's a very, very interesting story. See, this is the story of Apple. Now, Apple was not making profits always. So let's look at this. Right now, if you look at Apple, Apple has been consistently the most valued company. However, there was a time,
Thriving. They've been thriving.
sorry?
Now they've been thriving.
Yeah. So when we go back in the year 1999 and you look at the initial years, there have been also tremendous losses. And Steve Jobs was much alive. Steve Jobs passed away in the year 2011. And Steve Jobs decides that, you got to do something about it and all that. And then he hires this gentleman who is the current CEO, Tim Cook. Now, Tim Cook joins the company in 1998. Until then, everybody was being made, everything about Apple was made in USA. And he says, we've got to do something about it. We've got to cut the costs. How do we cut the costs? And he decides in USA, they go to design. That's where the brain of the company is. However, the parts are going to be outsourced and factories will be set up in Taiwan, Japan, South Korea. But all these parts which are being manufactured there will then be assembled in a country like China. Well, now we also have it in India. So China and India. Near Chennai, we have these huge plants. And so the assembly happens here. Now imagine a country like US where it is actually to make an iPhone, it is dealing with 40 different countries. What kind of a role of tariff is going to have on all these, on a country like on a company where everything is being outsourced? So this is a very interesting scenario, and that is not only happening with Apple, that is happening with many other countries. So what is it now that Apple did? In fact, in anticipation that the tariffs are going to be imposed, because when the tariffs are imposed, they had about they had a few days. 10% was imposed earlier, and then they imposed the reciprocal tariffs, and then they put it on pause. But until then, when the tariffs were going to be implemented, Apple iPhones and the other products were made in bulk in 3 days, and 5 planes full of iPhones and their products went to US. So that
I saw an
also made
article
news,
about this.
right? So this was because of exactly this. The tariffs were being imposed. So imagine what a huge thing the cost will increase. And this is this is known as a supply chain. So that is the reason why many a times when you hear in the news, you will be hearing that the tariffs have a huge role on the supply chain also. Now, this is the supply chain story that Apple actually started the trend. Ira, did you understand? Bache, any questions here? Anybody, Samira, did you understand this? So my question here was that it's my point that I was trying to drive home right now was not only is the citizen getting affected because of the direct tariff, it is also that so many products that they are using are also not directly imported, but are being manufactured somewhere else, assembled somewhere else, and then it's coming to them. So they're going to be facing tariffs of everywhere. And that is the reason why US US is expected to go into recession. That is a big, big problem. Okay. Now, if I say, Raina, if I ask you to ask me a question that you didn't understand, now that's my activity here. Raina, Samira, Vivan, Rohan, those who haven't participated have to ask me a question. Okay, everybody have a question ready that you're going to ask me. Even if that means I have to start from beginning. And Ruben, Ira, and Samira, the three of you, I would be curious to know if you can answer. Okay, Raina, ask a question. Anybody can answer. Okay, let's do it. Okay, this is the activity. We all have to ask questions, especially these 4 kids who I've just named. Raina, you have to ask a question, and anybody else from the group can volunteer to answer. Okay, Raina, what's your question? It could be anything that I didn't understand anything. So whatever we've explained, you could ask me a question about whatever you didn't understand. And even if you say I didn't understand anything, I'm happy with that question. Okay, Raina, you got to ask me a question.
I didn't understand that how the tariff, like what you just
About the, could you elaborate the question a little more? What did you understand, Bache?
explained, why does Apple have like why are they charged?
Okay, why, Raina, you went on mute. Please unmute yourself. So what your question is, why did Apple ship out these 5 planes or 5 phones? Is that your question? Okay, does anybody want to answer?
I can answer.
Please, Ira. Raina, you'll hear Ira's question. If you don't understand, then I'll answer. Okay? Yeah, Ira, come on, explain.
So when the tariffs were announced the first time, the tariffs were not as high as they were right now. And Donald Trump obviously knew that they were slowly going to increase. So he decided to import uh, products of Apple from China so that it wouldn't be as expensive as it would have been like in the coming time.
Right. So, Raina, did you understand that? Because what is happening is, in case of US, because the prices were so high to make in US in the year 1998, if you look at this, they were in losses. Okay, the country was in losses. So Tim Cook comes to power. I mean, it takes over the company's reins, and he says, I am going to set up the factories in different countries. Why is he going to set up with the different countries? Because of various costs, you get cheaper land there. Well, Raina, I'm sorry, I didn't fill up this. It's a very good question, Beta, you've asked. Because in US, the land is more expensive. They didn't have people. The labor was very expensive there. Whereas, and even the main materials that they needed were available somewhere else. So they decided, why don't I set up the factory where the raw material is there and we have cheap labor? Okay. So all those things are the things that go into making the cost of the product. So once everything is cheaper, the cost of the product also goes down. Okay. Okay. To give you just one more thing, Grida, you have people coming in your house and working? Maids coming to your house? Why? Because you have cheap labor here. In US, If you have family, do they have people coming to their house to work? No, they don't, because the labor is very expensive there. Okay, you get it? So it's a very good question. I'm sorry I didn't elaborate on this. That's my shortcoming. If you have any more questions, please ask. Samira, what's your question, Bache?
Ma'am, I didn't actually understand what trade war is.
What trade war is? Okay. Who wants to answer? Anybody? Rohan, Ira? No, Ira's already answered. Saisha, Ruben. Anybody wants to answer? What is a trade war?
I can answer.
No, Ira. I would want Ruben to answer. I'm glad you can answer. I'm happy. Saisha,
All
Ruben,
right.
anybody? Yeah.
Trade war is basically uh, two countries who are not like actually at war, but they just keep putting tariffs on each other's imports and exports.
That's right. So trade is when the countries are importing, exporting from each
They
other,
they're trying to
like
discourage
USA.
imports from the other country.
Yeah, so that's a trade war. You put tariff on me, I'm going to put tariff on you. And that's how the war continues. Does that answer, Bache,
It's
Samaira?
like tariff. It's
Yes.
like Trump and Xi Jinping being petty, like really petty.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're not exactly fighting with guns, but they're fighting with taxes on each other. So that you can't sell your products in my country and I can't sell products in your country. Does that make sense? Yeah. Rohan, one question from you, Bache. Rohan?
Ma'am, is there any other countries like in a trade war like this?
All right, a very good question. Can we think of any other country where the trade wars are going on? Anybody? Good question. Do we want to Google and check this answer? Any other country where the trade war is happening? And we imposing tariffs on each other?
It's not the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Russia placed some ban or something on Google, and they keep multiplying the amount for which they fine Google. They keep multiplying it every week, and it's a really huge amount. So I think it might be a similar thing, but it's not the same thing.
I am not sure about that. Trade war is that you mean between the companies that you're mentioning?
It's not trade war, but it's I think similar.
No, that is a
Russia.
different thing. No, that's a different thing. But that I think we are going to be, if we're talking about an antitrust thing, are you referring to that?
What?
Are you referring to the antitrust laws that are there that you've been reading in the news?
Uh,
I
Anything?
think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that we'll be talking about in the next class. Yeah. Yeah. So right now you're right. Canada with Canada and Mexico, with Canada specifically, they have a trade war going on ever since Donald Trump came to power to make America again. Okay. Rohan, good question. Vivan, anything, bache? Any question that you have?
Ma'am, I couldn't understand what trade deficits is.
Okay, excellent. Uh, Vivan, remember last class so trade deficit and trade surplus, right? Uh, Remember we did it in the last session that we had a map where we had ships going. Do you remember, Vivan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so remember, yeah, I'll just remind him one thing and then because we can refer to the last class, it'll be easier. So if you remember that, we saw that from China, we had a bigger ship and more ships going from China to US. Do you remember that? Whereas in
Yes,
US to China, we were sending only small ships in that map. Do you remember that, Bache?
yes, ma'am.
That is trade deficit, where one country, from US perspective, is taking a lot more goods from outside and sending very little. So difference between trade, import and export. You understand the difference between import and export?
Yes, ma'am.
So when a country is technically importing more than exporting, then it's a situation of trade deficit. However, and why is it a deficit? Because it has to pay also more money for all the goods that it is importing.
Okay, ma'am.
Anybody wants to elaborate on this? And what is the opposite of this, Vivan? That would be trade surplus. When a country is exporting more than importing, because when you export, money comes in. And when you import, money goes out. Yeah? Vivan, does that make sense, bache?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody else has a question that you want to? Anybody else has a question here? Nope. Okay. Now, one more thing before we move ahead is what we need to understand. So, this is a summary of practically what has been there. Here is Donald Trump in the year 2024. Let's make America great again. MAGA. So, this was his campaign. Children, MAGA. Make America great again. Again is a loaded statement. Okay. So, the tariffs were also imposed on, as soon as he comes to power, everywhere around. Mexico and Canada, the best partners of US. And remember, we had seen in that map, Mexico is dark blue. So he tested the waters there. He made news. He increased the tariff. When the tariffs increased, so that means, just imagine all those people sitting in US are now going to be paying tariff increased prices for everything, right? So increase in tariff is going to happen, prices will increase, and inflation will increase, and there'll be a slowdown in the growth. What is inflation? Anybody can answer? Samira, what is inflation?
Ma'am, the increase or growth in money.
Increase in
Money.
the prices when everything becomes very expensive, right? Anything here? And this leads to recession. And I hope everybody understands what is recession. Yeah? We all understand what is recession? Rohan, we understand what is recession? Raina, you understand what is recession? You guys are smart because I didn't know. So I had to Google what is recession. Seriously, this is me. If you guys know what is recession, Ruben, what is recession? We keep hearing this. Recession is there. Recession is there. Come on, give me an answer. What is
When the
recession?
economy crashes.
Okay. So, Raina, when economy crashes, the word, Raina, when you think of the word economy, what comes to your
Ma'am,
mind? Just the word
business is not successful.
are not doing so well, right? They're not doing as well. They're not making as much money. Absolutely. What
When
else
I
could be a
can't pay
recession?
for petrol at reasonable rates.
Absolutely. And what else could be recession? When will we know around us that, oh, I can sense recession? Because recession, the government may hide with the figures, but you and I will be able to tell. Yes,
When
Raina.
the jobs go down, there is less employment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Raina, you were about to say something. Yes, Aisha.
The GDP goes.
Yes, yes, Kudia, that's actually a bang on thing. And what is GDP when the total manufacturing is going down, right? And why is the manufacturing going down? Because there's no demand. Why is there no demand? Because people don't have the money to spend. Okay? It's remember, this is all common sense technically. So it sounds, they've given these complicated names, but recession is when everything is receding. And what it is, there, see, Raina, bang on. I wish I could give you pat on your back. So technically, when the country's income is going down, jobs are being lost, the business is slowing down, people are buying lesser, companies are earning lesser, and that is what recession is. And if you see technically the country or a economy is said to be in recession, if for 6 months everything is on a downward curve. Okay, so usually the governments will manipulate everything, all their figures, because it's possible to show that, oh, we are not in recession. Especially if it's a democratic government and a new government is coming in, they will do that. However, on paper, recession is when for 6 months, I'm repeating it, the GDP is on a downward curve consistently. Does that make sense? Yeah? Are we in sync with this? So, as you all said, jobs will decrease. People will save more, and they'll be spending a lot lesser. That is recession. And now with this tariff increase, we are expecting a recession to come into the play. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, if we've all understood this particular part that we have done, what I want all of you. Yes, Rohan, what is the question, bache?
Ma'am, in a quiz, I got 9 out of 10.
In the quiz, who's got 9 out of 10? Rohan got 9 out of 10. Okay. You got 9 out of 10. That was really good. The last week's quiz, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
good job. Okay, so here, what I want all of you to do is, I'm going to be putting you into the breakout room.
Okay.
What you have to do is, you have to start increasing in tariff to recession. You have to write in your head, I mean, you have to come out to, and one person from each team will be presenting the logic behind it. So, Ruben, you're going to be in your individual team, okay? No team for you. And
What do I have to do?
you have to basically draft a passage which starts from how the tariffs can lead to recession, and that's the chain, and you have to elaborate it with example or whatever, and you have to speak on this for about a minute, at least a minute. Okay, that's your task.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to put you all into the. Do you want to do it individually? All of you here, take a minute to speak. If anybody wants to go out in the breakout room, I'll put you
I'll
all
do
in
it
the breakout
individually.
room. Yeah, so tell me,
I'll do it
Ira,
individually.
I want you all will be doing it. Samira, you want to do it independently or you want to do it with somebody?
What
That
do you
option
have?
is open. Okay, we are talking about tariffs. The present situation is Donald Trump has imposed 10% tariffs on all the countries. So we're talking about a general thing. Increase in tariff can lead to increase in recession. Can lead to recession, sorry. Tariff can lead to recession. And in the process, try and use your keywords that we have discussed today. What are the keywords that we've discussed? Try and use as many keywords, the deficit,
Recession.
surplus, right? So try and put all the words
Recession.
together and come, yeah, recession. So you want to do that in teams or you want to do that here individually? Come on, quickly, and everybody has to speak for a minute each. That's not much.
Team.
You want to work in a team. All right, so
Yeah.
I'm opening a break. Who wants to do it in a
Me.
Okay, whoever wants to do it in a Raina, you want to do it in a team? Yeah. Okay, and Samira, you want to do it in a team? Okay, Raina, Samira, and does anybody else want to do it in a team? So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
open. Okay, so I'm making two teams. I'm giving the option where all of you can choose your own teams. So let the participant choose I'm opening 3 breakout rooms, okay? 4 breakout rooms. Please join the breakout rooms as per your own convenience and come out with a good passage. Whoever wants to do it independently may please do it independently. And whoever wants to, so choose the respective breakout room you want to go. Raina, move to a breakout room. Yeah, Vivan. So anybody who wants to go in Vivan's breakout room may please go to Vivan's breakout room. And whoever wants to do it independently may please stay here. Ruben, yeah, you here. Rohan, yeah, all of you. Fair enough. All right, take your time. Quickly prepare a passage. Do you guys need help? Let's start. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, I'm going to help you. So we are talking about increase in tariffs. Got it? So when the tariff increase, what do you think will happen?
If the tariff increases, the countries they might want to like decrease the amount of trade which they are doing with the country.
Right. So we'll say when the tariffs of a particular country goes up, right, is imposed, the idea is to reduce the trade deficit right? So try and use the words that try and reduce the trade deficit. And once the trade deficit is reduced, and that is the idea. However, what happens is that we are also trying to take into account that with the imposition of tariffs, you will have more jobs because the people will have to create their own, right? This importing country will have to set up their own factories. And when you set up more factories, you will try, and what are you going to do? Increase the jobs, right? Within the country, right? So that is the positive side of it. However, the negative side could be that the unemployment is going to has increased. No, one second, I'm confusing you further. Sorry, it is. You guys need to start. Raina, start. The whole aim is increase in tariff to recession. I'm sorry, I confused. Yeah. So increase in tariff will lead to increase in cost of the product to the consumers. When increase in cost happens, people will be spending lesser. When people will be spending lesser, what is going to happen? The demand will go down, the GDP will go down, right? When the GDP of a country goes down, what will that happen? The spending of the people is also, right, going down. And that means the recession, the inflation will also occur in the process, and that will eventually lead to recession. Yeah? Okay, I'm exiting right now. Let me send you all one particular thing of what we did. Did you take a screenshot of the earlier one?
Now what?
The earlier slide that was there where the link is there. So increase in the tariff leads to increase in the prices. Once the prices are going on up, inflation is going up. When inflation is going up, what is going up? The people are not able to buy as many products. When people are not able to buy as many products, it is going to pinch their pockets, right? And then
The businesses will
the GDP goes down, the recession sets in because GDP going down is what recession is all about. Hmm? Okay, I'll go to how do I leave the breakout room? Leave the room.
Now we have to leave room and to leave breakout
Come
room.
out, come. All right. Are we ready? Chalo, yeah, we've already overshot. Okay, let's hear it. Whoever is ready with the passage. Are we ready?
2 minutes, ma'am.
Sure.
I'm ready, ma'am.
Okay, let's hear it, Ruben. Or let others also come. But we've already overshot. You want to speak, Pita? If you are ready, then you might as well talk. Speak, Anil.
I'll go after actually. I'm after you.
All right. If nobody wants to go, I can go first because I believe. Yes, lovely. Saisha, let's hear it.
When a country increases their tariffs, which are basically extra taxes on imported goods, it means that those goods will become more expensive. That means we as consumers will end up paying more. And when prices rise, most people will start cutting back on their spending, which basically means that the demand for the good will reduce. Businesses will also face the consequences, especially if they rely on imported materials. Their costs will go up and their profits will drop. And in some cases, they might also lay off workers or even pause their investments. And to make things even worse, countries will also respond with their own tariffs, which is what's happening currently between China and the US, where both of the countries are retaliating, increasing their tariffs. And this is also making it very tough for the local companies to sell their products abroad. And all of this back and forth between the countries will also slow down their economic growth. And if this combination of this, it will actually drag the whole economy into a recession.
That's right. The only term that we probably missed out was the inflation, right? Did you use the word inflation? That'll lead to inflation. Well put, well put. Yeah, so all that, right? So well put. Who wants to go next? Saisha, if you want to exit the group, you can exit the group. Just in case you want to stay, that's lovely. Anybody else who wants to speak? Ruben? Ruben? Okay. Rohan, you want to speak?
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll wait if no
Yes,
one else goes,
Raina.
then I'll go.
Raina is ready. Let's hear it from Raina.
If the tariffs of a country go high, then the cost of the products will go up, which will lead to people not spending, which will lead to people spending less on buying stuff. So because of this, the demand of that stuff will also go low, and so the earning of the companies and the businesses will be less. All this will lead in the GDP going down, which will, if all this continues for 6 months or more, which it will lead to a recession.
Excellent. Excellent. And despite the fact I confused you in the breakout room, I was trying to put too much together. Excellent job. Raina, pat on your back. Okay, great job. Samaira, Aina, Ira, anybody, Rohan, who wants to go next? Samaira, come on, let's give it a try.
Um, So if there is an increase in the tariffs, that means that more taxes on the goods which are coming, which are imported in the country, then the cost of products will increase, which will lead to the consumers buying less products, and so the demand of that particular stuff will also decrease. So the earning of that particular company decreases, which leads to the GDP going down.
I'm so glad. Brilliant. And that GDP going down consistently for 6 months will imply the country is in recession. Yeah. So you said it completely, absolutely right. Brilliant. Okay. Who wants to go next? You know what? All of you can do is technically, I need these passages. Saisha, I think we can tell them to write them down and send it to you right away, right? So put
Yeah.
yourself, do that right now. Saisha, now that's your job. Take over. Okay. Who wants to
I
go
can go
next?
next. Oh, okay.
Yes, please, Ruben.
Alright, sorry, I typed it out on Google Document.
That's fine.
A trade war happens when countries start putting extra taxes called tariffs on each other's goods to protect their own industries. This may seem like a good idea at first, and in some cases, it actually can be. Tariffs help local businesses by making imported goods more expensive. People then buy more locally made products, which support industries and creates jobs. Tariffs can also protect small or growing businesses that aren't ready to compete globally, which can be seen in the case of post-independence India. Sometimes countries use tariffs to push others into changing unfair trade practices. However, if a trade war goes too far, it often creates bigger problems. Expensive imports mean people and companies buy less. Large businesses that rely on exports of foreign material lose money. For example, large businesses such as Apple or Nvidia, which import their products, to cope, they reduce production or lay off workers, leading to job losses and less spending. At the same time, companies and investors grow uncertain, delaying investments and hiring. As trade slows, unemployment rises, and demand drops. This can push the economy into recession. So, while tariffs can help short term, a trade war often harms global trade and slows down economic growth.
What do you think how his passage was? I want everybody to answer me, please. How do you think his passage was? Come on! Everybody is so dumbstruck. It was amazing. Amazing, Ruben. It was fabulous. Loved it. Okay, who's going next?
Ma'am, I can go next.
Let's hear it.
When Donald Trump became president, he aimed to make America great again. This phrase implied that the US needed improvement, particularly in addressing the trade deficit, which Trump believed was largely due to the imbalance between imports and exports. China, viewed from its perspective, had been consistently increasing its trade surplus, while the US was on the decline. To counter this, Trump decided to impose tariffs on goods entering the US from other countries. As tariffs increase, the US government gains more revenue, but consumers bear the burden of higher prices. Trump's policies led to a trade war between the US and China. He initially imposed a 10% tariffs on all Chinese imports. Uh, China retaliated, and hence they have started a trade war. Trump's strategy was to make companies start producing goods within the US, creating more domestic jobs. Many US based companies have factories in Asia, which pose as a threat as they could shift their production to countries like China and sell to other markets. All of this results in inflation, which leads to the US's GDP decreasing, resulting in less economic growth and recession.
Amazing, man. I'm so proud of you all. Man, I'm proud, super proud of you all. Fantastic. Who's going next? Vivan. Vivan and Rohan. You two left, right? You two are left. Vivan, are you there, bache?
Yes, ma'am.
Rohan, let's hear it. Beta, jo bhi aata hai, whatever you know, we'll add to it. You've recently joined, so don't be hesitant. Let's hear it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you just repeat the question?
But hey, the question is you have to link how the increase in tariffs can lead to recession. Can lead to recession, not always, but they can lead to recession.
Ma'am,
Rohan, you want
tariff,
to? Okay, yeah,
ma'am,
okay.
I
tariffs
have a
can lead.
question. Ma'am, what does recession mean?
I'll tell you, bache. I'll tell you, Rohan. Okay, Vivan, I'll just come to that. Vivan, let's hear it from you.
Ma'am, tariffs can lead to recession as ma'am, if we take tariffs from China, then the domestic jobs will not be able to work and get money. So that so the domestic jobs will not.
Okay, I'll explain. I'll explain you, Vivan. I guess it can be a little hard. Rohan and Vivan, recession basically means when a country is not doing well. There are no jobs, the industries are not doing well, their profits are going down, the GDP is going down. That means it's recession, and when it's happening consistently for 6 months. So here, when we talk about when the tariff increases, that means the cost of the goods will increase. Right, Vivan and Rohan? Please turn on your cameras, Vijay. The cost of the goods will increase. When the cost of goods will increase, that means the people will have to pay more to buy those goods. Right? Right? When the people have to buy more, what is happening is they're going to be saving lesser. When they're not able to save as much, what is going to happen? They will not be spending on other things as much. And when they are not, basically, the demand for goods around them will go down. And that means the companies which are making those goods will no longer make as many goods that they were making earlier. So when the production of any country goes down, that means the GDP goes down. And when GDP goes down consistently for 6 months, recession sets in. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Did you find it hard? You'll understand. You'll understand as long as you remember the basics in place. And Vivan, I think it'll be a good idea to turn on the camera always. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
We'll be able to interact. Rohan, I think it was a little whatever you've understood, that's good. And you write it. You want to try, Rohan? Do you want to try speaking it?
I understood the part of recession that the country is not doing well. Like that's the thing I understood.
All right, I'll explain it to you. I'll explain it to you later. Okay. All right, children. So please send your articles to Saisha, to me or Saisha, either one of us, and Saisha will be putting the newsletter together. All right. And until we see you next week, we will be talking about the antitrust case that is happening and we'll deep dive into that. All right. Until then, bye-bye. See you later next week.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
ma'am.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Bye. Bye.